Grief is such an overpowering emotion, especially after losing someone so close to you. It can take months, years, even decades to get back to normal, if that's even possible after experiencing a significant loss. This podcast was created to help you move through and release the emotions, allowing you to heal the hurt and begin living again. Listen in as I chat with medical professionals, grief workers, and people who have first-hand experience in losing a loved one, what their experience has been, and what they did to help heal themselves and those around them. Life isn't always sunshine and rainbows, but I believe there is always a silver lining if you're willing to look. Welcome to the Release Podcast. Hi, welcome to another episode of Release Grief Podcast. Today I'm here with the gorgeous Veronica Williams. And I'm really excited to hear all the things that she has to tell us today. It is a few things I've went through that she has mentioned in here, but I will let her tell all of the details and bring us in. Miss Veronica, welcome to the show. And please let me know, why did you decide to join the Release Grief Podcast? What brought you in and to be on this podcast?
Well, Faith, what brought me in is that I liked your topic, and I have gone through grief, double grief, same day, and I felt that my story could bring someone hope.
Good.
It's many years later now, but
Yeah.
What the emotion that I went through many years ago is almost like a blur now. And that's because I didn't allow myself to get stuck in that year and in that moment. And so that was something that was fulfilling for me, to be on the other side of grief.
Well, good. I know that I'm glad that you're moved through it. I'm glad that you've processed it and didn't stay stuck there. So many people do stay stuck in it. I know I was stuck for a little while. And it's easy to do. It is easy to do. And I think that we absolutely 100 million trillion % need more hope in this world right now. So can you tell me a little bit about what happened so long ago?
Right. So I gave birth to my son. And after giving birth to my son, I found out that I had lost my oldest sister, who was so close to me. And I had just spent the day before with her on a conversation for about an hour and a half. We were excited. We laughed.
Sure.
And she said, I'm not gonna be able to come until a couple of weeks after you have the baby, so I can help you.
Okay.
Needless to say, the next day, early in the morning, I went in to deliver. But prior to that, I called my mom because the night before, my sister was taking my parents to meet one of her friends' parents who they grew up with.
Okay.
And I didn't hear back about the story, how the event went, or anything. So, of course, through the night, I'm waiting for a call. No one has called me. But that morning, I called my mom. I said, I'm here at the hospital. They just gave me my pertussis, and I am, going into labor. And my mom was, she sounded like she was happy, but also I can tell in her voice. First of all, we were 3-hour difference. So number one, in my mind, I'm like, oh, was she really sleepy?
Yeah.
She doesn't sound like herself when I have talked to her early in the morning. And I just felt there was a sense of something in her voice.
Something was wrong.
Something was wrong, not yet right. But I had to keep praying and going on. I mentioned it to my husband, and he said, well, I'll check later. Right. So he checked later. I guess he checked later. I can't remember his part of the story, but I remember mine. But it wasn't until the next morning after we had the baby, because I was in labor from 5 o'clock in the morning to late that night.
Okay.
And so he must have gotten word about it, because he did say, let's just call everybody tomorrow. I'll just call them tonight. He kind of got me away, but I didn't know what was really happening.
Sure. Yeah,
until
having a baby is a little bit of traumatic experience itself.
it
And it takes
was.
your full focus. Like you don't have time to focus on anything else.
No, you don't have time to focus on anything else, but I am so close with my family. Like with
Mm,
that particular sister was like my mentor, her protege, you know. So
right.
of course, after my mom and my dad, she was the next person that I would have wanted to talk to.
Sure.
But I didn't get that opportunity. But I do want to say, needless to say, it was a long process of delivery.
Yeah.
And when I was going to have the baby, I was minutes or seconds away from the doctor. I heard him tell Darrell, "We're just going to have to do a C-section because the baby's not moving."
Oh no.
And so I was laying there, and honestly, the room was so bright. I've never seen a room this bright before. And I felt as though, not that I felt, but I was, what I saw was my sister, and I am a woman of faith,
Mm,
and Jesus, literally. And I remember hearing them say, every birth has a little bit of pain.
yes.
And then I went to squeeze my husband's hand to say, I'm going to push. The doctor double checked with him. She's going to push? I said, I'm going to push. And I'm grateful that I pushed, because had I not pushed and had a C-section, I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go home to her funeral.
Oh wow, yeah. That is a lot. Like, so when did you find, so you would already had the baby by the time you had found out that she had passed?
So by the time I had found out that morning, I was like asking my husband, so, oh, did anybody call? Did they find out? You know, he was like,
Ah,
no.
gotcha. Okay.
He said, I'm going to check in with them. But by that time, he had already checked in with my family. So he said, but why don't you just take my phone? Because he know
Sure.
I had stopped memorizing numbers, but there's
Yeah,
a few numbers
exactly.
that I would know. And so I changed phones. He said, I'm gonna go get me some breakfast and see what time they're bringing your breakfast. So I was there. I was groggy. It was tiring anyway. The baby was
Yeah.
asleep. And so it wasn't until we had some visitors, and I was shocked that they were visitors that had come to visit with us. And that was my husband called our pastor and our associate pastor's wife, who were
Okay. Hmm.
to be with him to deliver that news with me. And it was a blessing to have them there to deliver the news with me. But I must say, as hard as that was, because um, when I paused and could not respond, I was praying, like, God, what am I supposed to do? You know,
Right.
how is this going to happen? She was coming on a certain day in January, and
Yeah.
how is she not going to be here? But he reminded me of her faith. And he
Okay.
reminded me why we even have a faith and why we ultimately believe. And because I knew that my sister was a believer and a servant, I
Okay.
knew where she was going. And that is what comforted my heart for that particular day. Um,
Sure.
and as a result, you know, just trying to figure out how am I going to navigate. And so I knew personally that it was going to take the rest of my family, who I also call my village, of course, naturally my husband, and to help me in the coming days. So I had
Sure.
to just have some time alone to navigate those thought processes, those emotions, and move forward from there.
That is a lot because now this baby's birth is a reminder every year of the passing of your sister as well. So that's a hard one to like kind of wrap your mind around, that I have been given this amazing gift, but I also have this other gift that is not with me anymore.
And for me, I didn't get stuck there.
Yeah.
And the reason why I didn't get stuck there is because as time went on, um, I was reminded let me say, prior to having my oldest son, this particular child, I also had 2 miscarriages. And during those 2 miscarriages, it was in that season that God has shown me that I'm only in my storm for as long as I allow myself to be in that storm.
That's great advice.
And what that meant, I was like, God, you got to show me what that meant. And what that meant is he was saying to me, Veronica, as soon as you turn it over to me, the healing process can begin.
Right.
And that means that for anyone that don't really know, don't have a faith or believe, and it's just telling God all your troubles. Tell him how you really
It's
feel.
like having a person right here in the pocket, just talking away.
And tell him, I'm angry, God, because I wasn't there.
Right.
I'm in this state of mind. You know, I want to be there, you know. And
Absolutely.
so, but because I know where my life leads, where it's to lead us, where why we live to strive to go to heaven and to be with the Lord for eternity, right? That's what helped me navigate through that. But I did have emotions. I did cry. I did have all of the processes of grief. But I also was reminded that don't get stuck there. And don't look at this as such a sorrowful moment in the coming years. And that's why when I look at my son, I get joy. Because I look at it as, and I've thought about it over the years and what I've seen, is that there are times in our lives where we may lose a loved one, but God, it may not be the replacement for that individual, but there's always another birth. So he reminds you that though you may be sorrowful about not having this person, I'm giving you something else. Not to replace that person, but something to help you grow and learn more about me and to strengthen your faith. So I looked at that season in my life as a season that I was going to have to grow through, but it was also going to be a season that I could not get stuck in. Because I know so many people get stuck in the death.
Yes.
That they don't really know what's on the other side. And so for me, losing my sister, but having my son and having my husband and having my other family members to navigate through it. And even I found myself to be an encouragement to them. You know, in the midst of it, because sometimes you have to sacrifice some things. And it didn't downplay my emotions because I dealt with them the way that I could, but I had to encourage other loved ones that, you know, she lived for that. I was a living witness to her life, you know, and I just I looked at it as what is one thing or a couple of things about her life that gives me joy and that I can always retain. And so I was able to witness my sister as being my sister, but also I witnessed her as a mother. And the things that she and my brother-in-law did to rear their kids was a model, not only my parents, but for that relationship. And that's what I modeled, how to be a good mother and to build a good relationship with your children based on what I witnessed through that. And so I looked at her death being a legacy that I can live and pass on as time goes on.
Oh, that's beautiful. She sounds absolutely delightful.
Oh, everyone
That's
needed a
it.
sister.
Like I'm adopting your family because you
I
all sound
know.
amazing.
I know. She was a sister to have. I mean, when I talked to some of my friends and some of them that have met my sister, none of them have had a sister like that.
Oh, that's
No,
beautiful.
I mean, there are people that are close with their sisters, but none had like that relationship like my sister.
Well, that is so special. How many siblings do you have?
Well, we were a large family of 11 where I
Oh,
had
wow.
4. Yes. So the reason why her death was the hardest is because she was also the first death in my biological family.
Okay.
We've
Okay.
had extended family members, like relatives,
Sure.
pass away, but it was the hardest for all of us, because um, she was the first in our family, and we
Mhm.
supported so many families over the years that this hit us so unexpectedly because
Right.
she had an aneurysm and it was a
Oh,
sudden thing how it happened, how she got sick. So
sorry.
that, number one, was a shock and caused the devastating thoughts that we, just felt like all of us felt like a train wreck
Yeah.
just came through, or a tornado or a
Yep.
hurricane.
Yep.
It just blew up our lives. So as a result of that, you got to figure out, okay, how am I going to put these crumbles back together?
Right.
Um,
Right. And it's so hard when it feels like you're blindsided by something like that. And not that I want to downplay any illness or any death or anything like that. But when they come out of the blue like that, like an aneurysm or something like that, that's just because she wasn't sick beforehand, correct?
Not that we knew of. We did not know
Yeah.
that she was sick. Like I said, I was talking to her the day before. We spent like an hour and a half, and she had to run and take my parents to an event. And we were just talking normal. You wouldn't have thought anything. My parents, they got to their event, and 15 minutes later is when she had taken ill.
Oh, wow.
So it was just devastating. And usually her husband goes everywhere with her.
He
This
didn't this
time
time.
he did not go,
Mm,
which was very odd because normally he would go, but he was home doing some other stuff. So, but the thing about death and what people, you're gonna hurt, you're gonna have that missing piece in your life,
right.
and we get stuck. And one of the things I had to ask and pray about, was that God would help me to get through the void that was going to be in my life, because I talked to her just about every day. I called her every day, just like I called my mom every day.
Right.
Most people, they go days, but I'm always checking
Right.
in. I was always calling. We always
Sure.
talked. And so I knew that the hardest part, and my family thought it was going to be the hardest for me as well, but I actually came out strong in it all.
Hmm.
I just had to ask God to help me with the void that I
Hmm.
was about to experience, that I had no clue how it was going to be, how to navigate the next steps. But it was going to be God to help me and for me to rely on Him.
Sure. I remember. So we lost our daughter in 2016, and it was a freak vehicle accident. Just freak vehicle. She was 19 years old and just boom, gone. And I remember what I call it fondly now, call it the nothingness. Like afterward, you just fall into this almost like this void, that this nothingness where nothing matters. You're doing nothing, you're eating nothing, you're not sleeping, you're just there. You're just existing at that moment in time until you get um I don't want to say like a thought, but maybe it's a thought, like intuition, a voice that says, move, do something, go here, see this person, make this phone call, all of those things. And it wasn't my husband's the one who brought me out of mine, like wanting me to go listen to near death experiences on YouTube. And we weren't affiliated with the church at that moment. And that's what brought me through understanding that there was so much more than even we know about. And it brought me comfort knowing that I will see her again. We will have all the moments that we didn't have here. We will have them all. But it's a moment of, okay, moving into that and understanding that and internalizing it and not getting stuck there and saying, you know what, I hate the world. I hate God. I hate the creator. I hate the people. I hate the cars. I hate everything, because that just eats you from the inside out. and it turns you into a shell of a person that, that you're not. So,
Yeah, and you're so right about that nothingness image. But I think what happens is it's almost like with the same thing about just asking about the void.
mhm,
But I think what happens when we're hit with death or something so sudden of a traumatic experience, we're only living in that moment and we forget that there's something more to it, you
mhm,
know, that there's something that we must do or there's something that's going to help us through this process.
right.
We witness it through others, but when you go through it, it's so different.
It is.
And so you find yourself having to rely, for me, it was on my faith to comfort me. People could say whatever they want to say, but I always tell people it's a process
Yeah.
and everyone goes through death differently. And they
Mhm,
are all entitled to process it in the manner that they need to move
right.
forward. Um, but we have to be there to be that encouragement to them. Um, Sometimes you don't have to say a word. Let's just say,
Yeah,
well, I know you don't want company today, but I would feel better if I just came and sit. I won't ask anything. I'm just going
right,
to just sit with you. If you sit in the darkness, I'm sitting in the darkness too, just to let them know that they're not alone.
right,
Because a lot of times you can have the people there in the physical, but it's not enough, and
right.
you need to know that you can wrap your arms around you. And by being a woman of faith, it's like, God, I know that you're here because there's
Mhm.
no way that I can process this right now
Hmm,
and
yeah,
navigate through diapers and on the job training of my own
yeah,
baby. So
yeah.
it was
'Cause
it
this
was a
was your
good thing.
oldest, right?
Yes,
Yeah, so you were learning the process of children and stuff too, of being a new mother. Okay,
yes.
yeah.
And so, because normally, my family would come and they would just be there, but this
Mm.
time, so we were able to get approval to take our baby on the plane a few days old.
Oh,
So that
wow.
worked out. Yeah, so
Mhm.
that worked out. And one of the other comforting things is that my sister's youngest son said, I know we lost my mom. He said, but the fact that you have your son here, it just gives me comfort to know that, God didn't forget about us.
Oh,
And I'm glad that you're here, right? And
yeah,
it doesn't dispel any different of what he was going through emotionally, but we had some one-on-one time just to talk about our feelings, to talk about what we were going on. My family, they were happy to see me because they knew that the sisters were very close and that this
right.
was going to impact the youngest sister of all of us together. And so that's what it is. But it was a process of moving forward and just moving through life and navigating through it. So um, it's going to be your faith, it's going to be your village that help you to move forward in your timing. But for me, I just had to be reminded that as soon as I just tell God all about it, he could start the process. It doesn't mean that all the tears are going to go away every day in a
Right.
zap.
Uh-huh.
It doesn't mean
No,
that I'm not going to pull my car over and just cry, or I get
right,
to a parking lot and I just can't get out. It doesn't mean any of that. That's
right,
just all of the process to get it in your mental, to get it in your mindset, like they're not here. You're going to still go through all of that, but you have to remember that your life still goes on.
it does, yes.
And so you think about your loved one, they would not want you to sulk in the way that you're sulking because they are no longer in pain,
Right.
whether we knew that they had an illness or not. And we don't know what was ahead for their life.
Mhm.
And it just happened to be that season. So, how just God, just help me to embrace this new season without
Right.
my loved one. And then just show me the process. Here I am many years later on the other side, and I still um, can smile every day, even about my sister when I'm talking about her,
Yeah,
because even when I'm talking about I delivered my son on the day that I lost my sister, bittersweet, but
right.
God um, but God delights in all of he wants us to take delight in everything that he puts together and everything that he shaped. And I thank God that um, she lived a fulfilled life. Like she
Right.
lived her dream. And maybe it was just she fulfilled things in life sooner than we probably anticipated. And he said,
Maybe.
well done, thy good
Yeah.
and faithful servant. Enter in. And
Right.
so I said so with that, it's like, well, she did her job because God, you called her home today. So I'm still here. So help me to get it right. So that
Right.
I can hear those same words. That I can hear that you love me. Well done, thy good and faithful servant. Enter in. I
Right.
mean, so that's why when you think about it, you gotta think about that part. Like, well,
Gotta
no,
find the
they're not
silver
here.
lining.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, they're not here. Maybe she fulfilled, her life. She didn't get um the years that are anticipated because God doesn't, and there's no none of
No
us know the
guarantee on old
day.
age. No
No,
guarantee.
nobody knows the day, the hour that God calls us. And a
Mm-mm.
lot of times we just have to stay in tune in our relationship with him to ensure that in our relationship that we're fulfilling every purpose he desires for us. And
Yeah.
so that makes us work harder to make sure that we fulfill what God intends for us to do. Because when I look back over her life, she's done everything that God asked her to do.
Yeah.
Now the question is, have I done it? Maybe I
Right.
haven't, God, I'm still here. So help me to move forward. And so that's how, even in death, sometimes when we think about the fond memories that we've had with our loved ones, and we take light of it in terms of like, well, God, what's in it? What's in it for what you have in store for me?
Right.
How must I move forward? How must what must I do to keep moving on and anchoring myself in you and
Right.
aligning your will with my will because that was your will.
Yeah.
So I'm not angry with you, God. I just don't know how I'm gonna get by missing her.
Right. I'm just
But I
trying to
know it's gonna
understand.
take
I'm
you.
trying to process. Show me the
Exactly.
signs, show me the steps, show me the path, and I will take it.
Right. And no matter how traumatic any one of our stories are, there is joy on the other side. And I think my story is don't get stuck in that moment.
Right.
Learn to move forward. Because even when you pass all the grief, there's other joyful moments that God wants to bring to us.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away that we lost our loved one. It's just that
Mm-mm.
He's saying, there's this had to go this way for this to happen. This had to
Right.
go this
Yeah.
you had to go in this direction for that. And no, it wasn't an ideal timing, but
It never is.
no, but
Never
my
is.
timing is not your timing. um
Correct.
and so one of the teachable moments in that for me too is to not get hung up on our so connected to tangible things.
Yes. I like to
um
think to stay grounded. It helps me stay grounded in the now. Like I can plan some for the future a little bit. I don't go too far in advance, but it keeps me grounded in the now. Oh, my kids showed up out of the blue. Okay, I will drop everything and I will hang out with them, you know. It helps me not to be chasing the dollar, if you will, in the online world. That's a big thing. And a lot of
yeah.
people are pushing like, well, what's your monthly income going to be for next month? I'm like, I
Mhm.
don't know. I'm just going to do my part and keep doing my stuff. And
Right.
all of that will show up as it's
That's
meant
right.
to. Like I'm still pushing forward, but I don't base my stuff on a dollar amount anymore, if that makes sense.
Yes. And you put it all in perspective to what
Yeah.
God purposes for it, right? Because He is our creator and our provider. So when He's a provider, you just know that you just do what you need to do and He's going to
Mhm.
provide. You come
Absolutely.
up short, just make sure you are in alignment with Him and He'll fulfill the
Right.
gap.
Right.
you know,
Yes. Anytime I've ever needed anything, I just like everything shows up as I needed to,
as
as
I need it.
meant to be.
Right. And we're such a people that live beyond our means that I think if
Yes.
we take time to just live with what we need,
Be
then we
thankful.
don't have to be in the search of something that won't be there. We won't have to be
Right.
in the search of some emptiness. And then what I've learned also is that tangible things are not the things that make you happy. Tangible things, whether it's in people, places, or things,
For
those aren't the
distractions.
things are not to make you happy. It's what where you get the fulfillment is the relationship with the Lord. And then he blesses you to have those things in the means of people, places, or things. You
Yeah,
know what I
that's
mean?
true.
So if you it's all on perspective and changing our mindset, how we look at things. Um, and then there, I there's a song that I get joy when I think about, Jesus. And I get joy when I think about him. And even if I'm in a moment of just unknown sadness or whatever, I just think about him and he wipes away, the tears, or he wipes away the sorrow, because you have to realize, then why am I trying to be in this pity party by myself? It's lonely here. Go
Right?
out, and that's
Pity
what
party
happened.
table of one.
Right. And that's what happens when you lose someone. Don't stay by yourself. Don't isolate yourself.
It does.
Allow people to help. And if you're married, don't isolate the spouse.
Correct.
And then those that are really there for you, that want to help and really don't mind, and because you know them before this situation happened in your life,
Right.
allow them to help, because that's going to give them joy to know that their loved one or their family, their friend,
Right.
allowed me to help. So I at least feel some production that I gave some type of help. But when you isolate and keep them in the dark of everything, that's
It
not
feels
good.
awkward.
It's very awkward
And
when
it
you
turns
come
the
back around.
relationship kind of awkward too, because you kind of grow apart because you needed things, but you weren't able to convey them, or you pushed people away and they felt a disconnect with you.
Yes. And it's
Yes,
okay to ask. It's
it
okay
is
to
okay
ask
to
for
ask.
help. I think that's one of the things. It's okay to ask for help, because the thing about it is people are so willing to help.
Well, people want to help. Like it's
Hmm.
like I could go to any one of like our neighbors and people, and if I said, "Hey, can you help me with this?" They would make time to help me. And the same for them. But it seems like when it comes down to a lot of people, I know for myself, my quickest thing, my first inclination is to turn into myself and to just sit by myself and to isolate myself. It's fine if people are around, but I'm in what I call my box of nothingness at that moment. And that's where I process everything. It's where I have all my talks, all my everything. But if you're isolating yourself, it doesn't give room for others to join in and to help you and to grow with you through this, so that they may have an understanding on the other side, or in the next couple days or moments, for when they experience it, and maybe then it kind of trains the people around us too. Like, if you're not going to let them in, where do they go? What do they do?
Hmm. And then you just give them grace and
Yeah.
that timing as well, because it's something so new for them.
Yeah.
But just let them know, I'm here when you're ready.
Yeah.
I'm here when you're ready.
Right,
I'm
because
not
there's
gonna.
nothing great that's said at that moment in time, and nothing that you wanna hear, I should say.
Mm,
Just that someone's there for you, that's it.
that's all. We just need,
But
even if it's just, I don't want to say anything. I just want to give you a hug, because
yeah,
everybody can use
exactly.
a hug, right? But I think when we release our grief, it's so important to release everything with it. Don't just say, oh, I'm just going to release this part. Oh, I'm going to hold on, because that's
Right,
how we are. Like, you can have a piece of this, but not this piece.
but
But
I
we
need
have to,
this, it's my security blanket, don't take it from me.
right? It's like marriage. You have to be
Mm,
vulnerable. When you go through
do.
grief or death or anything, a traumatic situation, you open yourself to be vulnerable. And
Mhm,
that's a place where people don't want to go.
No, they
But
don't.
there is some healing when you become vulnerable, and there is a whole nother part that we don't see on the other side, because that's an area we don't want to touch. But there are times when you have to go, like deep calls into deep. We have to go into the deep, because that's really the footprint and the step that's going to take us on the other side.
I agree with that. I think it also comes down to knowing yourself a little bit as well, knowing how to pull yourself out of it. Like that is like you are literally writing your own journal, or like your own healing guide for how to pull yourself out of this. So whether it's music, whether that's, praying, whether that's seeking family out, whether that's journaling, whatever it is, but finding your own methods to pull yourself out when you get in a funk, because every day is not a picnic and roses.
No, it's not. And when you go through that first one, it's important how you navigate through it, because life, like we say, is not the slaying, is not a bed of roses. So just
Right.
know that there's going to be another one and another one and another one. And when I say another one and another one, it could be another death, it could be another situation or whatever,
Yeah.
but you got to know that you can't stay there, because and then you got to have those remembrances. Like,
Yes.
wow, I remember when I felt this way, but I'm out and I feel this. So, okay, it's okay to move
Yep.
forward, you know? So, we have to have those remembrances to help us as a guide to know that it really won't be that bad when we step out in
Right.
faith, or when we step out to be more vulnerable, because this has caught us off guard, because we are a people that like to be in control when ultimately we have no control of anything. So
No.
when you can come to that
Nope.
realization, it's helpful.
That is very helpful. Yes, I agree with that. The only thing you can control is yourself, like your I don't know, like not
Self-discipline,
your
yeah.
emotions, but like your actions and reactions.
Yes.
That's what you can control.
Yes, that leads to some self-discipline in there.
Yes.
We have to learn how to have that self-discipline to know, how not to react or overreact, or even how to have a, a specialized temperament
Right.
when we're going through things, not to get frustrated, not to be angered, but to just allow it all to pan out the way, to fall the way that it is, and figure out that it's not that bad after all, and it is bad after all.
It is bad, but we
But you
figure our
gotta,
way through it.
but I've gotten through
Hmm.
something similar before,
Right.
so let me just learn to just move forward.
Right.
And I think we have to have a life where we can handle the shifts that take place in our life.
Yeah, I agree with that. Can you tell me, like, I didn't get, like, how long ago was it that your son was born?
Oh gosh, 19 years ago.
Oh,
And
wow.
so,
Okay.
yes, 19 years ago, but I'm grateful because I'm not stuck in it. I can still tell the story with joy. And
Yeah.
I could tell the story with mm, just empowerment. Like I felt empowered. I felt like um more purposeful as
I
well.
feel like it's calming. Like you're telling me in
Yeah.
a calming way because I feel soothed by the words that you're saying and how
Yes.
you're recounting the situation with your family and with your
Mhm.
relationship with her and your relationship with your nephew and your son and all of those and your husband. Like
Right.
it
I
sounds beautiful. I mean, I know just because of my own experiences, I know that it's, in the moment, it's not. It feels not beautiful. It feels ugly and it feels painful and it feels raw and emotional. But finding the way to find the joy out of maybe not out of that situation, but out of what's blossomed since then. Uh,
Yes, I like that. What's blossomed since then,
yeah.
and then even in the short-lived life the
Mhm.
legacy, you know.
How old was she?
My sister was, um,
I'm gonna make you do math now.
I know, she was like a month away from being 52.
Oh my gosh, way too
Yes, and
young.
so she had been married for 32 years.
Oh,
My nephews were like in their 31 or something
oh,
like that. But even with that, you know, over time, life has happened,
yeah.
and you know, in fact, just several months ago, her husband just recently passed away.
Okay, I'm so
And
sorry.
so, not only am I just a woman of God, but I am also a minister, and I am a master certified life coach.
Okay,
So my nephew called me to tell me that his father had passed away, and he asked if I would do his burial.
okay.
And so I went home a few months ago and I did his burial. But I actually made it of laughter and joy because those were
Yeah,
the type of people that they were.
yeah,
And it was a simple thing. And I knew what people and what family would be there because, of course, in 19 years, we lost a whole lot of family in
right.
between there. So
Yep,
we've had a lot of stuff going on.
right.
But knowing the family and knowing who was there, I figured I would make them laugh because I knew that. And I talked to my nephews about it. I had a meeting with my two nephews. They had two children and grandchildren, and the nephews are married. But I
Hmm.
had a meeting with the family, and I was like, this is what I was think. I asked, what do you all want
Right.
me to really do or say? And then what do you want? And we were all in agreement. Like their their parents were happy people. They were like the pillars of our families. My
Hmm.
brother-in-law was
Okay.
a pillar of his family, as my sister was a pillar of our family. Same thing. And so it was great. It was, even though it was a sad occasion, but it was joyful because it was his burial. I
Yeah.
brought out his personality that everyone would know him to be.
Right.
And so people were like, wow, I've never been to a funeral where you didn't really make people try to cry. I mean, we cried,
Of
but
course.
it wasn't prompting them to say something
Right.
to um, you know, make the situation even harder.
Right.
And part of it is because not only I was a family member as well, burying another
Yeah.
family member. And
Right.
both families, we were all close anyway, so it was a blend of everything and everyone. And we remembered when we were younger, we remembered when we were older, and now to see each other, because it's almost like when you have burials or funerals, it's like a family reunion.
It is a fan. I thought of that too. It's a reunion. When you get married and when you die, they're all
And
reunions.
and so many people, so many years has passed when you've seen people. So they might have seen me when I was a teenager, in
Mm-hmm.
my early young adult life, but now I'm a wife, I'm a mother,
You're a
and
pillar in your
so
own community now, I'm
I'm a
sure.
parent in my own community. I'm a leader in my own community.
Yeah.
And so they're like, I'm not surprised that you're doing what you do because you
Right?
were, we called on you when you were younger. So, but it's just, you just see how life goes before you, and to not have it flash, you just embrace every moment. And when you're asking about my son, we take him this weekend to start his second year in college.
Okay.
And I think about it and I say to him, I said, when we brought you home, it was OJT, on the job training for your dad and I.
Right.
I said, but now, when you're away at college, you surprise us. You came home this year and they told us that we weren't going to have the same kids that we were dropping off,
Hmm.
and you proved that. And I just said, well, go back and do the same thing, but better
Yeah.
in your second year, because you're about to really become a man, right? So,
Right.
um, so you just kind of help navigate that. So I think that's where the joy comes. Is like, who would have known what life was going to be
Right.
some 19 years ago?
Well, I'm pretty sure if we knew, we wouldn't want to do it.
We wouldn't want to do it. But then now here I am, a mother of a 19-year-old. And even in that, I have twins that are rising juniors in high school. So
Okay.
even when you lose things, God has a way of rebuilding life for you. And so that's what he's done. And so you just kind of just go with the flow. And I like to say, go with the flow of the blessings that God has for you.
Yeah.
If I stay stuck in where I'm at, and if I get in a mindset as woe is me, and if I feel like I can't
Yes.
pull myself out of the funk, I'm missing out on all the blessings that God has for me in this one loss that I've had. So
Yep.
that's how we have to encourage each other and move people forward to this isn't the end of the story because you're not gone.
Right.
So what could
This
we
is a
do?
chapter in your life that you get to write about or think about or talk about or muse about or whatever it is.
And we won't downplay it.
No.
But it's day by day that the emotions get lighter. It's year
Yeah.
by year that the emotions get lighter. When you
Yeah.
think about all of the many things, when you only think about sad things and have sad thoughts, that's what pulls you down emotionally.
I think
But if
so.
you think
Yeah.
about lively things, things that give you hope, things that
Find
give
the
you
good things. Yeah.
joy, things that makes your life more purposeful. What is it that you like to do? And how can this situation empower you to help those in your circle and those in your community? And most important, how can it empower you to feel like you've really done what you're supposed to do here on earth?
Right.
So
Absolutely.
I just think, I just think of joy when I hear about the goodness of God. And I think if it wasn't for God, I don't know that I would be here today. If it wasn't for God, I don't know that I would have the joy to talk about a situation, even though to someone else, they may say, oh, that was 19 years ago. But when I had my first
Doesn't matter.
miscarriage, I met a lady who had one 24 years ago, and she still was angry with God.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good
when she
stuff.
heard me share my story, she said, I'm so glad you shared your story because that is going to help me move forward. And here I am for 24 years. I was stuck on that. Do you know, if I hadn't just been so mad about that, how I missed out on really having a true love, to even
Focused
embrace
on
if
life.
God wanted me to have new
Yeah.
children. She said, now I'm older, 24 years later, and I don't have any children. And hearing your story, I now sense that I've wasted my time. So
Right.
now I'm motivated to just move forward.
Yeah.
And so those are the things that we have to do in life to move forward. What do we need to do? What is it that we like to do? What is it? How can you remember your loved one in doing something that they
Right.
liked? Because that might be an avenue for you to help someone else that was
Right.
similar to you. So, um,
Yeah. I think it's a lot
so
about finding the good things in life instead of hunting down all the bad things.
and finding what's best for you, because
Right.
everybody's story and pathway is so different.
Right.
But I always say, find the one or two things of that loved one's life that you can embrace and move on. Like for me, I saw how she was as my sister. I
Yeah.
saw how she was as a wife, and I saw how she was as a mother. And so that allowed me to be the woman that I am today, to live a life like my own mom,
Yeah.
and then how my sister impacted my life as a sister,
Okay.
and the way that she lived her life. I had a true example of what do you call it? Mentors through
Yeah.
all of my sisters as to how to be the woman that I was created to be. And so not everyone had that. Some people have
Yeah.
sisters or siblings that lead them to destruction or
Yes.
that get them caught up in stuff that, may not have been for them. But
Right.
I'm fortunate that I had sisters that helped me become the woman that I was created to be. And outside of my sisters, the number one person was my mom and my dad. So just allowing to embrace and release the grief. Because when you release the grief, it gives you a different passion of how you're going to live your life, and it gives you more purpose, meaningful, purposeful things, or a meaningful purpose to do for your own personal life, and just not staying stuck in the grief.
Yeah. It's easy to stay stuck, but it's easy to choose to not either.
Yes,
But it's
and
always a choice.
the choices are always difficult, but
Yeah. Yeah.
they're never easy.
They're never easy.
But
Their choices
sometimes
are always hard.
we have to choose the hard.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes the hard are easier than the easiest ones.
Yeah.
So,
I think back to that bed of roses you talked about, because
mhm,
roses have thorns. So they remind us that there are bumps in the road, that not everything is as beautiful. Like, you don't get to have the beauty without the pain. And you
yes,
can't recognize the beauty without the pain because you don't know
no,
what it is.
no. And, life itself, we have to have those experiences because it's what leads us to our ultimate goal. And you
Yes.
have to know what your ultimate goal is. And without the experiences, you cannot grow.
Right. I agree
So
with that. I
without those
love that.
experiences, you cannot grow. So, you almost have to say, bring on the experiences. I know what the grief is like to go through. I don't really want it, but I
Yeah.
know it has to happen. I don't want to go through all of it, but I know let me recognize the stages and let me move
Right.
forward and let me turn it over to God and let me just keep it moving and let me just get to where he needs me to go and needs me to be. And then now when you have children and you lose one, you can't stop life anyway because there's other children there.
That's
So you
right.
have to keep embracing them. You're your own motivation, and then you're a motivation for the family
Yes.
to
I
keep
agree.
going. And that's a heavy weight to bear,
It
but it's
is.
a heavy weight that we have to release, and they see us go through. Because if our children never see us go through experiences or hard
Yeah.
life
Yes.
experiences, they won't know how to navigate them. Because if they don't see us navigate, we may not navigate them smoothly, but if they see us navigate them in the best way that we can, and where we come out on the other side in a smooth way,
Right.
in a ultimate good way, then they realize the stumbles of life that they're going to have, the experiences of life that they're going to have, the exposures of life that they're going to have.
Yes.
It's not the end of the world. And I think that's what we have to tell people. You may go through, but there is hope.
That's
Hope to not
beautiful.
remain where you are today. Hope to not stay stuck. Just think of this as just a season.
Right.
Some of us have an opportunity to live in all four seasons in a state that has all four seasons, and some of us may not experience all the seasons.
Yes.
But life seasons happen,
They do.
and they all happen, maybe not by winter, summer, and fall, but they do
Right.
happen in ways that we don't even recognize. And so we just look at those situations, kind of compartmentalize them and say, well, this is this season, and it has to go through its processes. Like fall comes, it has leaves, and then it has to
Yeah.
go away. That's how
I
our
like
life
that.
circumstances happen. They come, it sticks around for a little bit.
Yeah.
It has to go away. Now what? I have to move on to the next season.
And some seasons are longer than others.
Some seasons are longer than others.
Some come shorter, some come longer, but every season comes.
Every season comes and
Yeah.
every
That's
season
beautiful.
goes away.
I love that. That is
And every season
absolutely
goes
beautiful.
away.
It does. It
It's
does.
just not going away today. It just happened.
Right.
But it's going to go away.
And it
It's
fades
coming.
through, just like how fall fades into winter and spring fades into summer. And, and one day you just wake up and you're like, oh, it's summer out today. It's
Yes.
nice.
And like me, it's 19 years later, and wow, the emotions I went through there. I'm so glad I didn't get stuck. I'm so glad I was able to share with people that it may not look good. It may not look pretty. It may not feel good, but you will come out.
Do the hard things.
It's your process.
Yeah.
It's your process. You just have to, you have the ultimate determination as to how long you plan to stay there. You can stay there lifelong, or you can stay there by the season.
I love that. That is beautiful. Well, Miss Veronica, thank you so much for being on the Release podcast. I am so truly blessed and honored to have been in your presence and hearing your words. Like, they're very soothing. Do you have anything else you'd like to leave with the guests today before we hop off?
I just hope that this was of encouragement to those that are listening to the Release the Grief podcast, that you find peace within yourself.
Yes.
No one can love you like you love yourself. And so even when you're going through, find things to love yourself with, and that will help you find your peace. Just be encouraged. Just, find ways of opportunities to move out of the situation. And like we were just stating, it's a season.
Yeah.
It will go away, and it will flourish into another season. You just have to be ready.
Right. You have to go through the emotions, go through them.
Yes. It's a process, and there's no guideline as to how long each process is. And I say give yourself grace, meaning give yourself patience.
Right.
To get through it. There's no rush, but you just have to come out where you're going to be whole on the other side. You're going to get through it. And there's things there. And there's also people, places, and resources that would help you. Alliance seminars, we are a faith-based, but we also have non-faith-based clients that we work with that would, you can talk with us. We'll help coach you through anything that you're going through. We work with premarital couples. We work with couples that have hiccups, couples that are going through and they're married. And we work with organizations that want to build relationships with their employees.
Oh, good.
Motivational speaking, facilitator of workshops. We're available. You can reach us through on Facebook, Alliance Seminars Coaching, or you can reach us at by our website at Alliance Seminar, www.allianceseminars.org, and that's Alliance Seminars is one word. We are here for you to help navigate through life, because one situation doesn't mean that there's no more to come.
Right. Amen. I love that. That was beautiful. And all of the links that she mentioned will also be posted below the podcast episode. So you will be able to just go click on those and seamlessly go right over to all the things that she was mentioning if this is what is needed in your life. So thank you again, Miss Veronica. And
thank you.
We will see you in the next episode. Thanks, everyone.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to this special episode of Release. All the links plus a few extras are posted in the show notes below. And if you think someone you know could benefit by listening to this episode, please share it with them. And as always, keep going, keep being, keep doing. You are amazing.